Do you ever ask yourself, in the quiet of the night, why the wealth you so desperately crave has not yet found you? You lie awake, staring at the ceiling, counting your failures like stars in a sky that refuses to shine, and you whisper to yourself that maybe you're cursed, maybe opportunity has abandoned you, maybe some cruel fate has decided that you are not worthy of abundance. But listen carefully, for the truth is far darker and far simpler than any of those illusions. The reason you are still not rich is not because the world has denied you, not because your luck is insufficient, not because the system is rigged. No, it is because your mind, your own sacred and dangerous mind, is still chained by shadows you refuse to see. You cling to desire without discipline, to hope without strategy, to ambition without stillness. And in that blind pursuit, you do not realize that wealth is not merely a number in a bank account. It is a state of consciousness, a law of being, a subtle alignment of thought, feeling, and action that begins in the hidden chambers of your psyche. Napoleon Hill wrote that desire is the starting point of all achievement, yet desire alone is a flame without guidance, a fire that consumes its host rather than illuminates the path. And here is where the Stoics whisper their ancient warning: unchecked desire breeds chaos, distraction, and inner turmoil. The ambitious man who cannot master himself is like a ship with 1,000 sails but no rudder, tossed endlessly by the storms of impulse, emotion, and circumstance. You have wanted wealth, yes, but have you truly understood what it demands of you? Not your energy, not your labor, but your mind. Are you willing to silence the relentless chatter within, to observe yourself without flinching, to confront the uncomfortable truth that you have been your own greatest obstacle? The mind, if untamed, becomes a labyrinth of self-deception. You chase money, thinking it will solve the emptiness inside, and yet every gain feels hollow because it is sought in distraction rather than design. Napoleon Hill tells us that faith in oneself is essential, that imagination shapes reality, that persistence is non-negotiable. Yet Hill also warns subtly that belief without control is like a river with no banks. It floods, destroys, and stagnates. And the Stoics remind us that the external world cannot grant peace or power. Only the mastery of your own reason, your own emotions, can allow desire to flow like a controlled current rather than a destructive flood. Your failure is not a punishment. It is the inevitable consequence of a mind split against itself, a consciousness that dreams of riches while remaining a slave to impulse. Think about your mornings, the way you rise, the way your thoughts scatter like leaves in the wind. Are they ruled by purpose? Or are they dictated by habit, by fear, by the petty anxieties of survival? The difference is subtle, almost imperceptible, but it is profound. One path leads to clarity, deliberate action, and inexorable momentum. The other leads to distraction, fatigue, and the illusion of busyness. You say you want money, yet your attention is fragmented. You are constantly reacting, responding, adjusting, seeking comfort or validation from outside yourself. The great irony is that wealth, real wealth, does not arrive through frantic movement. It arrives through calm intensity, through a mind that knows exactly what it wants, refuses to be shaken, and moves forward with unwavering discipline. Desire, then, must be married to detachment. This is the dark truth. The richer you wish to become, the less you can cling. The Stoics teach that attachment is the seed of suffering, and Napoleon Hill teaches that obsessive desire without rational planning is the seed of failure. You cannot reach mastery by pushing blindly. You must desire without desperation, aim without panic, act without attachment to outcome. Most people fail because they confuse obsession with intention, longing with alignment, hunger with readiness. They are hungry, yes, but for illusions, for comfort, for the next distraction. True hunger is silent, controlled, precise. True hunger does not scream. It observes, it calculates, it waits, it strikes. Now consider your beliefs. Hill said that whatever the mind can conceive and believe, it can achieve. But what is belief if it is not disciplined, if it is not fortified by reason and emotional control? How often have you believed in the idea of being rich while secretly believing in your own limitations? How often have you conjured visions of luxury while tolerating mediocrity in your habits, your focus, your daily rituals? The mind cannot lie to itself without consequence. The subconscious, that silent architect of reality, obeys the patterns you engrave upon it. And if your patterns are sloppy, reactive, emotional, fearful, the wealth you seek will not arrive. The universe, or fate, or the mechanisms of reality, call it what you will, respond not to wishful thinking, but to precise, controlled, consistent me. Entel command, do you understand the depth of this truth? Desire alone is childish. Persistence without control is brutal. Belief without reason is delusion. And yet, when desire is purified by discipline, when persistence is guided by calm, when belief is anchored in understanding, the mind becomes a weapon of immense precision. You begin to see opportunities where others see chaos, to seize advantage where others see risk, to create wealth not by luck, not by chance, but by design. This is why most fail. They have neither the fire nor the silence. They have neither the ambition to dream nor the serenity to observe themselves, to confront themselves, to command themselves. They are caught in a tempest of their own making, blind to the fundamental laws that govern success. Consider the idea of visualization, a principal hill extolled, vividly imagining your desired outcome as if it were already reality. Most people do this superficially, flitting between daydreams of riches and the harsh reality of their current limitations. But the Stoics would warn, imagination without reason is folly. You must imagine with purpose. Imagine with control, imagine in alignment with the actions, habits, and mental clarity that reality requires. The dark truth is that most wealth fails to manifest because people do not train their minds as they train their bodies. They do not prepare their inner world for the demands of their outer goals. The mind must be a temple, not a playground, a weapon, not a toy. Only then can desire translate into tangible results. Emotional mastery is equally essential. The desire for wealth triggers fear, envy, impatience, anxiety. These emotions are subtle, often unnoticed, yet they corrode your capacity to act decisively. A Stoic understands that emotions are signals, not commands. Napoleon Hill understood that the subconscious responds to dominant thoughts and feelings. When your subconscious is filled with fear, doubt, or frustration, it cannot serve the creative, constructive, wealth-generating mind. You must feel, acknowledge, and release, transforming your emotional energy into controlled momentum. This is the secret invisible bridge between ambition and achievement, emotion harnessed, not suppressed, desire focused, not frantic. The dark truth goes deeper. Your failures, your stagnation, your repeated cycles of hope and disappointment are not accidents. They are mirrors. They reflect the chaos within. You see, no amount of external hustle, networking, investment, or luck can substitute for inner mastery. You can work 20 hours a day, but if your mind is fractured, scattered, reactive, your efforts are squandered, invisible to the world of opportunity. Wealth requires a mind that is both fierce and still. Hill spoke of definite purpose. The Stoics speak of rational action and acceptance. Only when these converge does the path clear. Until then, the road is littered with the corpses of scattered ambitions and wasted energy. Ask yourself this: what if your mind right now is the single greatest obstacle standing between you and the riches you seek? What if every distraction, every half-hearted effort, every wavering thought is a chain that keeps you impoverished, not just in wealth, but in the fullness of your potential? This is not a question of finances. It is a question of psychology. The dark truth about why you are not rich, is that your inner world is misaligned. Your thoughts, beliefs, emotions, and actions are fragmented. You desire wealth, yet your mind obeys impulse. You seek freedom, yet you tolerate chaos. You dream of abundance, yet you harbor fear. The law of success does not forgive these contradictions. It does not bend to hope. It responds only to clarity, intensity, and inner authority. And so begins the journey. If you are willing to confront yourself honestly, to stare into the shadows of your mind without flinching, to abandon excuses and comfort, you may glimpse the secret path. It is a path of discipline, observation, and relentless self-command. It is not glamorous. It is not easy. It is not instantaneous, but it is the only path that leads to lasting wealth. Napoleon Hill calls it the law of success. The Stoics call it the life of virtue and reason. Together, they reveal that real richness is both an external conquest and an internal mastery. You must master the mind that desires, the heart that fears, the emotions that distract, the habits that betray. Only then can you summon wealth as naturally as the tides respond to the moon, as inevitably as night follows day. The first step is awareness. Observe your thoughts. Observe your fears. Observe your habits of procrastination, distraction, and emotional reactivity. Name them. Do not fight them yet. Do not suppress them. Do not shame yourself. Simply see them as the Stoics see reality, with clarity, without judgment. This is the silent, terrifying, beautiful moment in which everything changes. Until now, your failure was unconscious. Now it becomes conscious. And consciousness is the first spark of mastery. Do not mistake this moment for comfort. It is not. It is confrontation. It is naked truth. The rich mind and the poor mind are distinguished not by opportunity, not by luck, not by intelligence, but by their willingness to face what is hidden inside. You may have blamed external forces for years, telling yourself that the economy, the system, your circumstances, or other people are to blame. Those were lies you told yourself to protect your ego from the harsher reality, that the true obstacle has always been you. And yet, there is hope, though it is not the kind that whispers gently. It is the kind that demands vigilance, courage, and ruthless honesty. The moment you see your mind as the battlefield, everything else changes. Your desires, once scattered, can be focused. Your persistence, once aimless, can become unstoppable. Your belief, once fragile, can become unbreakable. The laws of success do not require you to be perfect. They require you to be awake, disciplined, and uncompromising in your inner work. Wealth is not given. It is claimed. Not with brute force, not with blind hope, not with luck, but with intelligence, self-mastery, and the quiet, relentless cultivation of mental power. Desire fuels the journey, but it is discipline that drives it. Faith ignites the flame, but reason guides it. Persistence strengthens it, but emotional calm ensures it does not destroy itself. You are capable if you are willing to be honest. You are capable if you are willing to see your own darkness without blinking. The difference between those who stumble endlessly and those who claim their riches is this: one confronts, the other avoids; one commands the mind, the other lets it command him. One blends fire and silence, ambition and control, desire and detachment. The other dances in shadows, hoping for a miracle that never comes. And now, having seen the truth, ask yourself, are you ready to stop blaming the world, stop running from yourself, stop fearing the shadows of your own mind? Are you ready to demand mastery over your thoughts, to bend your emotions into allies, to align desire with discipline, to make belief and reason inseparable? The path ahead is not easy. It will demand patience, rigor, courage, and endurance. It will strip you of excuses, illusions, and false comforts. But it will also waken in you the power to summon wealth, not as a wish, not as a gamble, but as an inevitable consequence of your inner order. Listen to this carefully. The dark truth about why you are still not rich is not outside of you. It is inside. It is the chaos you tolerate, the fear you cling to, the impulses you obey, the illusions you feed. Wealth responds to clarity, to discipline, to unwavering, silent control of your mind. Begin there, and the world will yield. Begin anywhere else, and you will remain a wanderer in a desert of unfulfilled dreams. Your journey begins tonight. You have been warned. The fire of desire is not enough. The calm of the mind is not enough. Only together, fused in relentless, disciplined pursuit, do they become a force that bends reality to your will. The rest is illusion. The rest is the life you have always had, the life you will leave behind if you do not choose mastery now. Wealth is not a surface phenomenon. It is not the numbers in your account, the titles on your door, or the applause of the crowd. Real wealth begins in the in the silent architecture of thought and belief, in the hidden engine that drives every decision, every reaction, every choice you make. If you are still not rich, it is because this engine is misaligned. You have not yet understood that every action, every ambition, every desire must be filtered through a mind that is disciplined, alert, and unflinchingly honest. You see, desire without control is a storm without direction, an energy that destroys itself before it can create. And discipline without desire is a barren landscape, capable of consistency but devoid of purpose. The fusion of both is the dark secret path toward mastery. Most people imagine wealth as a goal they can grasp externally. They chase salaries, promotions, fleeting opportunities, believing the accumulation of material will summon the richness of life. They labor, they hustle, they strive, but what they do not see is that external achievement without internal mastery is like building a house on sand. Hill tells us that imagination is the workshop of the mind, that thoughts planted with faith are seeds that become reality. Yet imagination without control is a playground for folly. The Stoics remind us that our happiness, our power, our destiny are born not of circumstance, but of the mind's command over itself. Your failure is not an opportunity denied. It is in mental chaos allowed. Consider the mind of a man who has mastered both ambition and calm. His desire is a blade tempered in stillness. His actions are precise, deliberate, and relentless. He does not flinch when faced with fear, for he understands that fear is merely a signal of growth, not a reason to retreat. He does not cling to outcomes, for he knows that the universe responds to consistency and intention, not desperation. Every thought is examined, every emotion observed, every impulse measured against a higher standard of reason. This is not meditation in softness, it is meditation in power. This is the alchemy of the mind that transforms desire into tangible, unstoppable force. Most minds, however, are not so disciplined. They drift like leaves in a current, tossed by the winds of emotion, societal expectation, and unexamined belief. You have desired wealth, but have you disciplined your mind to receive it? Have you trained your subconscious to recognize opportunity, to act decisively, to reject distraction? Every day that passes without this command is a day lost to inertia. Hill spoke of definiteness of purpose, of writing down your goal, of seeing it, feeling it, believing it. The Stoics would add, align that purpose with reason. Examine every desire critically. Do not allow fleeting emotion to masquerade as clarity. A rich mind is not a mind that wants. It is a mind that knows, a mind that prepares, a mind that executes silently but with unstoppable force. Emotional mastery is the unseen architecture of wealth. You may be skilled, intelligent, even visionary, but without control of your inner life, every effort will be diluted. Anger, envy, impatience, fear, they are small, subtle killers of ambition. They gnaw at your focus, erode persistence, and sabotage the alignment between your conscious intention and subconscious power. Hill speaks of the subconscious as the intermediary between desire and manifestation. What you feed it, it will grow. And yet, if you feed it with fear, resentment, or indecision, it becomes a labyrinth of self-sabotage. The Stoics would teach you to observe these emotions without attachment, to let them pass, to convert their energy into calm vigilance. Wealth cannot thrive in turmoil. It can only manifest in clarity. And so we arrive at the paradox: to achieve, you must detach. To possess, you must release. Desire without attachment, action without desperation, belief without doubt, this is the invisible crucible where real wealth is forged. Most people fail because they cannot tolerate the tension of this paradox. They want yet cling. They act yet waver. They believe yet fear. The fire is there, but the steel is absent. Hill and the Stoics together would call this the battlefield of self, the arena where every thought, every emotion, every habit must be tested against reason and refined by discipline. Persistence is the silent companion of wealth. Hill's law demands it, yet he warns that blind persistence without judgment is self-destructive. The Stoics would advise measured action. guided by reason and observation. Imagine a man pursuing his financial goal relentlessly, yet reacting emotionally to every setback, consumed by resentment, despair, and doubt. That persistence is a fire that consumes, not builds. Now imagine the same man, but calm, detached, analyzing failure, learning from each misstep, adjusting strategy without panic, moving forward with unwavering resolve. One path leads to ruin, the other to inevitable success. The difference is mastery of the mind. You may ask, how does one achieve this mastery? The answer is hidden in habits, rituals, and mental frameworks. Every day, every hour, every decision is either a brick in the fortress of wealth or a crack in the foundation. Hill emphasized autosuggestion, the conscious direction of thought to influence the subconscious mind. But the Stoics remind us that not all thought deserves cultivation. Observe what you allow into your inner temple. Feed it clarity, courage, and reason. Remove fear, distraction, and delusion. Repetition turns the mind into a machine of precision. Wealth is not granted by inspiration alone. It is demanded by discipline applied daily, without fail, without compromise. Your imagination, too, must be disciplined. Hill says to see wealth as already yours, to feel it, to inhabit it mentally before it appears physically. Most people attempt this superficially. They fantasize without preparation, dream without action, believe without strategy. The Stoic approach deepens this. Visualize, yes, but couple it with reason, calculation, and detachment. Imagine wealth not as indulgence, but as alignment. Every visualization must be paired with habit, learning, and calculated risk. Only then does the imagination summon reality rather than illusion. Fear is your most insidious enemy. It whispers constantly, not today, not now, not you. It manifests as procrastination, distraction, self-doubt, and rationalization. Hill wrote that fear is the great destroyer of opportunity, that it must be conquered. The Stoics instruct, confront fear without flinching, recognize its nature, strip it of power. Emotional courage is not absence of fear, but control over it. The dark truth is that every financial failure, every missed opportunity, every unrealized ambition is rooted in fear, tolerated, nurtured, and disguised as reason. Remove fear, and the path, previously hidden, becomes visible. Time is another hidden adversary. Wealth cannot be summoned instantly, yet impatience drives most to abandon the process prematurely. Hill emphasizes persistence over time. The Stoics remind us of patience and acceptance of natural order. You cannot control all events, but you can control your mind, your habits, your focus. Wealth is a slow, deliberate process, forged in consistency and mental clarity, not in frantic attempts to accelerate reality. Learn to move with time, not against it. Desire will burn, but the fire must be channeled through steady, controlled effort, never recklessness. Now consider the relationships you tolerate. The company you keep, the voices you hear, the advice you follow, each has a subtle, often unseen impact on your mind. Hill emphasizes the mastermind principle, the value of surrounding yourself with aligned, capable, ambitious individuals. The Stoics warn, choose companions who refine your character, not dilute it. Surround yourself with calm intensity, with clarity of thought, with disciplined ambition. Every distraction, every voice that sows doubt or fear, weakens your mental architecture. Wealth is as much a product of the minds you allow into yours as the actions you take yourself. Let us confront another hidden truth. Desire is not enough. You may long for wealth, dream of riches, hope for opportunity, but hope alone does not command reality. Hill stresses that desire must be turned into a definite plan, a blueprint of action, a conscious influence over the subconscious. The Stoics would add, examine that plan with reason, anticipate obstacles, prepare for failure, and remain emotionally detached. D from outcome. The mind that combines these elements, desire, plan, discipline, observation, emotional control, is not merely ambitious, it is unstoppable. Wealth requires ruthless honesty with oneself. Do not flatter yourself with excuses, delusions, or half-truths. Observe your habits, your impulses, your distractions, your weaknesses. Label them, confront them, eliminate them. Hill instructs us to clear the mind of negative influences. The Stoics instruct us to cultivate virtue in thought and action. Every indulgence, every moment of self-deception, every emotional eruption that escapes your control subtly sabotages your path. The rich mind is not a passive vessel. It is an active, deliberate, and unrelenting force. And yet, there is power in stillness. The Stoics teach that tranquility is not weakness, but strength. Hill suggests that faith in oneself, internally cultivated, influences external reality. Together, they form the secret alchemy: ambition fueled by calm, desire tempered by discipline, vision guided by reason. You must learn to sit in silence, observe the storm within, and act only when clarity emerges. The poor mind is restless, reactive, impulsive. The rich mind is poised, deliberate, and implacable. One is led by circumstance, the other commands it. Now imagine for a moment that every moment you have wasted in distraction, fear, or indecision has been a lesson. The universe has been mercilessly honest. It has shown you, through repeated failure, the limits of undisciplined desire. These failures are not punishments, they are mirrors. They reveal the fractures in your mind, the emotional leaks, the scattered attention, the untested beliefs. The dark truth about why you are still not rich is not outside you. It is entirely internal. Until you master your mind, your emotions, your beliefs, your habits, external abundance will remain elusive. And here lies the opportunity: consciousness. Awareness, the ability to see yourself clearly, without flinching, without excuse, without shame. When you reach this level of observation, every failure becomes instruction. Every fear becomes manageable. Every distraction becomes irrelevant. You begin to see the subtle forces that govern your success, or your lack of it. Hill calls it definiteness of purpose. The Stoics call it virtue in action. Together they describe a mind that cannot be shaken by circumstance, a mind that is simultaneously hungry and calm, ambitious and disciplined, fiery and unyielding. You have imagined wealth, yet here you are, still grasping at shadows. Why does it elude you? The answer lies not in what you desire, but in how you conceive, believe, and inhabit that desire within the uncharted depths of your mind. Napoleon Hill spoke of visualization as if it were a sacred ritual. See it, feel it, live it as though it already exists. Most people fail at this because their imagination is untamed, unfocused, scattered, a fleeting spark instead of a disciplined flame. You must understand that imagination is not indulgence, it is strategy. The images you hold in your mind are not fantasies. They are the architects of your reality. But if these images are messy, contradictory, or emotional, they summon chaos rather than creation. The Stoics warn us of emotional overindulgence. Desire unrestrained becomes obsession, obsession becomes torment, torment corrodes clarity, and declarity is the currency of wealth. Your visualization must be precise, methodical, and aligned with deliberate action. Picture yourself as if already endowed with the riches you seek, but do so without attachment, without panic, without the trembling anxiety of need. Hold the image steady, feel it. Let your subconscious absorb it as truth. Then, with the calm authority of reason, let action flow from that internal certainty. This is no mere daydream. It is a command to reality itself. Belief is the invisible force that animates visualization. Hill emphasized that belief can transform the intangible into the tangible, that faith in your own capability is the engine of manifestation, but belief is fragile if not disciplined. Most people believe, yes, but they wobble, hesitate, doubt themselves with every small setback. A Stoic observes setbacks not as punishment, but as mirrors. The mind that fuses belief with observation, that merges faith with reason, becomes invincible. Belief must be active, conscious, and unyielding, yet tempered with calm. It must navigate obstacles without panic, remain steadfast in the face of uncertainty, and convert fear into focus. Persistence, then, becomes the crucible in which desire and belief are forged into results. Hill teaches that persistent effort, fueled by a burning desire and guided by definite purpose, is non-negotiable. But persistence without mental control, without emotional detachment, is reckless, destructive, and fleeting. The Stoic approach teaches that effort must be deliberate, that action must be guided by reason, that endurance must be cultivated as a virtue. Imagine pursuing your goal with relentless determination, yet every disappointment turns into rage or despair. That is the path to ruin. Now imagine pursuing the same goal with calm, measured persistence, analyzing every setback, refining every approach, maintaining unwavering inner calm. That is the path to unstoppable success. The subconscious mind is the silent architect of your life. Hill understood that your thoughts, beliefs, and emotions shape this hidden engine, and that it responds not to idle wish, but to consistent, dominant influence. What you feed it, it manifests. Fear becomes opportunity blocked. Doubt becomes action paralyzed. Frustration becomes habits that betray. Yet when you feed it with clarity, disciplined desire, calm intensity, and unwavering faith, it bends circumstance to your will. The Stoics would observe external events cannot dictate internal order. Only the mastery of thought and emotion commands destiny. Wealth, therefore, is born in the hidden corridors of the mind before it ever appears in the world outside. Consider the mental rituals you engage in. Every day, every thought, every emotion is a decision, whether conscious or unconscious, about whether you will claim power or submit to chaos. Hill instructs daily affirmation, purposeful thought, and deliberate autosuggestion. The Stoics instruct reflection, observation, and rational detachment. Together, they form a framework for domination of both inner and outer reality. Your daily mind, guided by these rituals, is the battlefield where wealth is won or lost. Without this, no amount of talent, opportunity, or effort will compensate. You will remain as you have been, trapped by circumstance, reactive, scattered, and endlessly frustrated, emotional energy is currency. Wealth is not merely the accumulation of money, but the translation of mental and emotional power into external results. Fear, impatience, and doubt are leaks in your system. They dissipate energy, focus, and drive. Hill describes faith as the fuel of achievement. The Stoics describe reason as the channel that directs energy efficiently. Together, faith and reason must guide every action, every thought, every emotion. Only when energy is focused, disciplined, and aligned with purpose does it manifest as tangible abundance. Without this alignment, desire remains a flickering flame, extinguished at the slightest disturbance. Imagination, belief, and emotional control converge in visualization. But it is not enough to imagine wealth. You must imagine yourself capable, prepared, and disciplined to receive it. Hill spoke of detailed visualization. Feel the wealth, hear it, touch it, live it internally. The Stoics would add, observe it with detachment. Do not cling to the imagined outcome with desperation. Feel it as certainty, yet hold it as a tool of action, not as an object of need. Your mind must inhabit wealth internally as a precondition for manifesting it externally. Those who fail at this remain prisoners of their own fantasies, unable to convert desire into reality. The psychology of success is merciless. Most minds are weak, distracted, emotional, reactive. They allow fear, doubt, and distraction to dictate behavior. They waver in belief, falter in persistence, and squander the potential of visualization. The rich mind, by contrast, is disciplined, focused, and deliberate. It observes emotion, harnesses imagination, channels desire, and applies persistence with surgical precision. Hill and the Stoics converge here. Success is born from internal order. Disorder cannot yield results. Chaos cannot build empires. Only the mind that commands itself becomes rich. Do not underestimate the subtlety of internal sabotage. Every negative thought tolerated, every moment of emotional indulgence, every distraction entertained weakens the foundation of success. Hill spoke of controlling thoughts and habits. The Stoics spoke of cultivating virtue in all actions. Wealth is the product of this convergence: desire, discipline, reason, persistence, emotional mastery, and the conscious shaping of the subconscious mind. Anything less is a slow death of potential, a life of frustration masquerading as ambition. You have observed your failures. You have felt your frustrations. You have envied others who seem more successful, more capable, more aligned. The dark truth is that envy, comparison, and resentment are toxic distractions. They consume focus, fragment energy, and cloud judgment. Hill advises focusing solely on your own definite purpose. The Stoics advise that external comparisons are meaningless, for they lie beyond your control. Together, these principles demand that your mind remain entirely sovereign over its inner landscape. Only then does visualization, belief, and action align with the laws of success. Now consider deliberate action. Desire and visualization, no matter how vivid, must be followed by calculated, rational steps. Hill emphasizes definite plans. The Stoics emphasize reason and prudence. Every action must be purposeful, deliberate, and aligned with your overarching goal. Avoid reactive behavior. Avoid impulsive spending of time, energy, or emotion. Wealth flows to the mind that moves deliberately, decisively, and consistently. Chaos invites failure. Calm, relentless action invites inevitability. Reflection is another hidden tool of manifestation. Hill encourages periodic review of goals. The Stoics demand daily self-examination. Observe your thoughts, habits, and progress. Are you feeding your subconscious with clarity or confusion? Are you harnessing desire or succumbing to impulse? Are you observing setbacks with reason or drowning in emotion? The answers determine whether your desire becomes reality or remains a hollow fantasy. True wealth demands ruthless honesty and disciplined introspection. Consider the long game. Most people abandon visualization and persistence at the first sign of delay or difficulty. Hill warns that many give up just before breakthrough. The Stoics remind us to embrace fate, to endure without complaint, to act with consistent reason. The fusion of these ideas yields a mind that anticipates setbacks, treats obstacles as instruction, and maintains unwavering focus despite temporary hardship. Wealth cannot be rushed. It must be drawn from the reservoir of disciplined patience and relentless reasoned action. And here is the cruelest truth. If your mind is not disciplined, if your emotions are unbridled, if your belief wavers, if your imagination is chaotic, then every step you take, every effort you make, every action you believe is moving you forward is wasted. You are building castles on sand. The universe, reality, fate, they respond to structure, order, and clarity. They respond to mental authority, not frantic hoping. The rich mind recognizes this and acts accordingly, silently, relentlessly, until manifestation becomes inevitable. This is why most fail. They confuse desire with readiness, hope with certainty, imagination with mastery. Hill teaches that definiteness of purpose and faith transform desire into success. The Stoics teach that reason and emotional control transform chaos into clarity. Together, these truths reveal that success is not external. It is internal. You cannot be rich until your mind embodies wealth, disciplined, focused, calm, relentless, and aligned. So ask yourself, do you see yourself clearly? Do you recognize your weaknesses, your distractions, your fear? Do you observe your imagination, your beliefs, your emotions, your actions? Are they aligned, disciplined, prepared for manifestation? If not, no external effort, no luck, no opportunity will compensate. Wealth is not a lottery. It is the inevitable consequence of an ordered, disciplined, relentless mind. And now you must decide. Will you continue to drift in mental chaos, hoping for a miracle, or will you command your mind with precision, inhabit your desires with unwavering belief, master your emotions, and persist with calm intensity until the invisible laws of success bend to your will? The choice is yours, but the dark truth remains. Until your inner world is mastered, the riches you seek will remain a phantom, always out of reach, always eluding, always reminding you of your failure to confront yourself. Wealth is never given, it is claimed. But not through chaos, panic, or the desperate clamor of a restless mind. Real wealth is drawn from a mind that has learned the sacred rhythm between fire and silence, ambition and restraint, and calm. Napoleon Hill described desire as a burning flame, a magnetic force that attracts opportunity and shapes reality. The Stoics, however, teach that fire without stillness is destructive. The restless heart, the untrained mind, the impulsive emotion, these consume, scatter, and undo what desire seeks to build. The fusion of both, controlled fire, is the secret the world rarely teaches, the hidden law behind the few who rise while the masses stumble. Imagine a man whose desire burns brighter than any obstacle, yet whose mind is stiller than any storm. He feels the fire within, the hunger, the ambition, yet he never allows it to erupt in panic, haste, or distraction. He observes his impulses, acknowledges them, and directs them with precision. He allows no fear, no doubt, no envy to dictate behavior. Each thought, each emotion, each action is a calculated spark, feeding the controlled flame of purpose. This is not merely ambition. It is mental alchemy. Most men never glimpse it because they mistake frenzy for power, agitation for determination, and noise for signal. Discipline is the silent architect of this inner furnace. Without discipline, fire devours itself. Hill teaches that a definite purpose, clearly written and felt with faith, channels desire into action. The Stoics teach that reason and detachment prevent destruction, allowing power to act rather than reaction to consume. Discipline is the bridge between imagination and reality. You may see wealth in your mind, dream it in vivid color, feel it as though it exists, but without disciplined alignment of action, thought, and emotion, it remains a phantom. This is why the majority fail. They have fire, but no control. They have desire, but no order. They long for abundance, but cannot summon clarity. Self-mastery is the battlefield upon which this war is won. The enemy is subtle. Procrastination disguised as rest, distraction disguised as opportunity, emotion disguised as instinct, fear disguised as caution. Every weakness tolerated is a chain forged in the mind, each one invisible but binding. Hill speaks of the subconscious as the silent servant of the dominant thought. What you dominate consciously, it manifests. What you neglect, it sabotages. The Stoics remind us that the mind obeys reason and habituated virtue, not whim and impulse. Master these internal forces, and external mastery, wealth, follows inevitably. Ignore them, and every effort, however brilliant, is wasted. The dark truth is that most people work tirelessly while remaining slaves. They move, they strive, they labor, but internally their mind is fractured. They fear, they indulge, they resist discipline, they cling to comfort. These invisible chains ensure that their hustle bears little fruit. Observe your own patterns. How often have you acted without reflection? How often have you allowed frustration or excitement to guide decision? How often have you indulged in daydreams without preparation, imagining success while tolerating chaos within? Each moment of undisciplined thought delays manifestation. The mind that commands itself is rare because self-mastery is terrifying. To see yourself clearly is to confront fear, weakness, and limitation, but only then can you transform them into power. Advanced mental strategies are required for the few who intend to be unstoppable. Hill instructs definite plans, organized knowledge, persistence, and the harnessing of imagination. The Stoics add reflection, rational assessment, and emotional detachment. Together, these create a mind that sees opportunity where others see chaos, that converts setbacks into strategy, that refuses to surrender to fear, doubt, or impatience. Visualization becomes not fantasy, but pre-execution. Belief becomes not hope, but inner certainty. Persistence becomes not blind repetition, but precise, calculated pressure applied until the desired reality bends. Silence is as important as fire. The world is noisy, chaotic, demanding attention at every moment. Social pressures, distractions, entertainment, obligation, all conspire to fracture the mind. The rich mind withdraws deliberately, cultivating periods of stillness to refine thought, observe emotion, and rehearse action. In this silence, desire sharpens, belief crystallizes, fear dissipates. Hill may call it autosuggestion, the Stoics call it reflection and reason. Both converge, the mind becomes a vessel for purpose, a mechanism for manifestation, a weapon against distraction and chaos. Without silence, fire consumes indiscriminately. With it, fire sculpts reality. Action is born of this fusion. Desire alone is inert. Visualization alone is impotent. Belief alone is fragile. Only when disciplined fire moves through the calm of reason and reflection does action gain unstoppable force. Each step is measured, each decision deliberate, each motion aligned with purpose. The chaotic mind acts, yes, but without aim, without continuity, without absorption of lessons. The disciplined mind acts and transforms. Hill teaches that wealth requires persistent, intelligent action. The Stoics remind that action without reason is pointless. Together, they reveal that wealth is a consequence of mastery, not chance. Emotional resilience is a hidden weapon. The road to wealth is littered with failure, disappointment, envy, and betrayal, by circumstances, by others, by your own impulses. Most collapse under pressure. Hill warns that defeat is temporary, yet only those who can persist without being consumed by frustration truly prevail. The Stoics provide the method. Observe, detach, act in accordance with reason. Do not cling to failure. Do not indulge resentment. Do not allow disappointment to fracture discipline. Emotional control converts every obstacle into fuel, every setback into instruction, every insult into opportunity. The unmastered mind is broken by adversity. The masterful mind is strengthened. Now contemplate desire, refined through stillness, focused through discipline, and hardened by reason. It is no longer raw hunger, but controlled force. This desire observes, plans, executes, and recalibrates. It feels the fire within, yet does not erupt chaotically. It imagines the future in vivid detail, yet remains detached from outcome. It believes with absolute certainty, yet remains open to adaptation. This is the engine of wealth. Most fail because their desire lacks this structure. It is either weak, distracted, impulsive, or desperate. True desire is relentless, silent, and exacting. Observation is the lens through which mastery is achieved. Hill emphasizes definite purpose. The Stoics emphasize vigilant self-reflection. Observe your habits, your impulses, your emotions, your thoughts. Observe your failures and successes with equal honesty. Eve, wry action must be accounted for. Every thought must serve purpose. Every emotion must be harnessed. Only when observation is constant, precise, and disciplined can you transform chaos into command. Wealth is not an accident. It is the inevitable outcome of a mind fully awake, fully sovereign, fully engaged in its own governance. Consider your failures as instructions, not as punishment. Each disappointment is a mirror of weakness, impulsive thought, uncontrolled emotion, flawed plan, or scattered energy. Hill tells us to persist and refine. The Stoics tell us to accept what is within reason and adjust accordingly. Together, these principles form the blueprint for the mind that cannot fail. The wealthy mind absorbs every lesson, integrates every correction, and emerges sharper, stronger, and closer to the goal. Most see only the pain and retreat. The master sees the instruction and advances. Even the fear of wealth itself must be mastered. Desire often comes with fear. Fear of responsibility, fear of visibility, fear of expectation, fear of loss. Most avoid these fears, procrastinate, rationalize, or sabotage. Hill emphasizes the importance of faith over fear. The Stoics teach that fear is not an external threat, but a judgment that can be corrected. Confront fear openly, dissect it, dissolve it with reason and preparation. Only then can desire move unhindered, action remain precise, and the engine of manifestation operate at full power. Ritual, repetition, and habit are the scaffolding of mastery. Hill instructs daily practice, affirmation, and persistence. The Stoics teach discipline, routine, and reflection. A mind that cultivates these creates internal infrastructure for our wealth. The subconscious mind is trained, emotional energy is channeled, imagination is focused, and desire becomes aligned with execution. Chaos cannot manifest results, only order can. Every habit, every ritual, every thought is a brick in the architecture of inevitable success. And now, in the depth of this realization, understand this dark truth. The majority will never reach this level. They are content with frantic effort, scattered thought, indulgent emotion. They cling to comfort, avoid introspection, and flinch from discipline. You may have glimpsed this path already, in discomfort, in frustration, in envy, in ambition. The difference between those who remain lost and those who rise is not opportunity, not talent, not luck. It is mastery of the self. Fire without silence destroys. Silence without fire stagnates. Desire without discipline dissipates. But fire and silence, fused in relentless, conscious, and disciplined pursuit, create inevitability. The rich mind is patient yet relentless, calm yet hungry, disciplined yet imaginative. It acts with precision, persists without desperation, believes without doubt, and visualizes without attachment. It commands its emotions, masters its thoughts, and directs energy with laser-like focus. This is the inner law of wealth, the invisible force that determines who claims abundance and who drifts eternally frustrated, hungry, and blind to the power within. The mind is a battlefield. The vast invisible territory of your thoughts, beliefs, and emotions determines the shape of your life more than any external circumstance ever could. Napoleon Hill wrote of the subconscious mind as the unseen force that manifests desire into reality. The Stoics teach that the mind is sovereign, that external events cannot dictate inner calm or power. The fusion of these truths reveals an unassailable principle. Your wealth is limited only by the authority you exert over your own consciousness. Every distraction tolerated, every fear indulged, every contradictory thought unexamined weakens this authority, fragmenting energy that could otherwise summon opportunity, influence, and abundance. Subconscious mastery is the unseen crucible of wealth. Most people believe they act consciously, yet their subconscious, shaped by repeated emotion, habit, and thought, dominates their decisions. They fail not because of lack of desire, intelligence, or opportunity, but because the internal commands they issue are inconsistent, chaotic, or fear-driven. Hill instructs persistent autosuggestion. Saturate your subconscious with purpose, belief, and disciplined imagination. The Stoics instruct vigilant self-observation. Notice your thoughts, control your emotions, align your actions with reason. When these converge, the subconscious becomes a silent, obedient ally, bending circumstance to your will with precision and inevitability. Consider desire as energy. Raw, uncontrolled desire is a wildfire, beautiful, terrifying, and destructive. Yet when disciplined, it becomes a river, relentless, directed, capable of carving mountains. Desire must be tempered by calm observation and reason. Every thought of ambition must be weighed, every action tested against a higher standard, every emotion observed and directed. Hill describes desire as the starting point. The Stoics describe reason as the path. Together they reveal the alchemy of focused energy, a mind that does not merely want, but commands. Without this fusion, energy dissipates in distraction, frustration, and anxiety. With it, impossibilities collapse before relentless, disciplined will. Visualization is the language through which desire communicates with the subconscious. Hill instructs imagining your goal vividly, in sensory detail, as though already achieved. But the Stoics warn against attachment. Visualization must be deliberate, precise, and emotionally tempered. Imagine the wealth you seek with intensity, but without desperation. Hold it as certainty in your mind while allowing reason and discipline to govern execution. The mind cannot serve two masters, desperation and clarity. You must choose. Either let fear rule or command with controlled fire. Those who fail at visualization fail not in imagination, but in discipline and emotional sovereignty. Belief is the fuel of manifestation. Hill stresses that whatever the mind can conceive and believe, it can achieve. Yet belief without control becomes vanity. Faith without strategy becomes delusion. The Stoics remind us that reason must accompany conviction, that emotional detachment ensures clarity of thought. True belief is not fragile hope. It is unwavering certainty tempered by calm observation, resilient against distraction, criticism, or temporary failure. When belief is anchored in reason and habit, it transforms the subconscious into a relentless engine, converting vision into action, desire into wealth, potential into inevitability. Strategic mental dominance is the next layer. Wealth is never accidental. It is the outcome of a mind that commands itself before commanding circumstance. Observe your impulses, which are your own, which are reactions to fear, envy, or habit. Track your habits, which strengthen, which sabotage. Examine your beliefs, which are authentic, which are borrowed, ill-examined, or destructive. Hill emphasizes definiteness of purpose and organized planning. The Stoics emphasize rational action, observation of nature, and detachment from outcome. Together, they form a framework for mental authority, the power to act decisively, persist relentlessly, and manifest desire with precision. Most people act, yet remain unwealthy because their strategy is flawed. They act on impulse, on hope, on partial understanding. They react rather than plan. They chase trends, follow opinion, indulge distraction. Hill calls this unfocused effort, the Stoics call it chaos. The rich mind moves with foresight, discipline, and internal sovereignty. It anticipates obstacles, absorbs lessons, adapts without panic, and executes with precision. Every step is calculated, every habit deliberate, every emotion observed. This is mental dominance, the ability to harness thought, emotion, and action to serve purpose unshakable by circumstance. Time is both an ally and a test. Hill emphasizes patience and persistence. The Stoics emphasize acceptance and rational action. Wealth requires consistent application over time, yet the majority abandon effort at the first sign of delay. You must learn to move with time, to endure, to persist silently, and to refine relentlessly. The mind that commands itself does not waver at temporary setback. It converts delay into instruction, failure into insight, resistance into fuel. Every day that passes with discipline and alignment, NT compounds, building an invisible momentum that eventually manifests as undeniable reality. Fear is the invisible saboteur. The majority are paralyzed, not by circumstance, but by internal judgment. Fear of failure, fear of judgment, fear of loss, fear of success itself. Hill instructs to conquer fear through definiteness of purpose and persistent action. The Stoics instruct to confront fear rationally, observe it without attachment, and allow reason to guide action. Together, these methods transform fear from a paralyzing force into an instrument of focus and preparation. When fear is mastered, energy once wasted on hesitation is redirected into precise, relentless action. Desire, belief, visualization, persistence, and emotional mastery converge in the silent, unstoppable engine of manifestation. Most attempt these separately, imperfectly, and in isolation. Hill teaches the laws of success. The Stoics teach self-mastery. Together, they reveal the law that governs reality. Internal order precedes external abundance. When the mind is disciplined, the subconscious aligned, and desire channeled through reason and calm intensity, external wealth follows inevitably. Those who fail do not fail due to circumstance, luck, or opportunity. They fail due to internal chaos tolerated too long. Consider the life you have lived, measured not in income, but in alignment. How many of your days have been fractured by distraction, by reactive thought, by indulgent emotion? How many of your actions have served your purpose, and how many have been waste, illusion, or fear? The rich mind is unflinching in honesty. It observes itself, critiques itself, corrects itself. Hill's law demands instant autosuggestion and deliberate focus. The Stoics demand reflection, detachment, and rational action. Together, these practices cultivate a mind that becomes a magnet for opportunity, insight, and wealth. Ritual and habit are the hidden scaffolding. Hill emphasizes daily repetition of thought, visualization, and belief. The Stoics emphasize disciplined routine, meditation, and reflection. Together, they create internal infrastructure. Each day becomes a deliberate act of construction, training the subconscious, aligning emotion, and sharpening focus. External wealth follows naturally as consequence of internal mastery. The mind that tolerates distraction, indulgence, or chaos cannot summon abundance, regardless of talent, intelligence, or effort. The alchemy of desire and reason is the apex of this teaching. Raw desire must be tamed through discipline. Belief must be tempered by observation. Action must be guided by strategy. Emotion must be observed and directed. Only when these elements converge does the mind generate unstoppable momentum. Hill calls this definiteness of purpose. The Stoics call it virtue and rationality. The fusion creates a consciousness that commands circumstances with calm authority. This is the threshold that separates the few who achieve lasting wealth from the many who stumble eternally. The dark truth remains: most will never reach this level. Most remain lost in distraction, indulging emotion, tolerating chaos, deferring mastery. They chase opportunity, yet remain unprepared. They long for abundance, yet indulge fear. You may have glimpsed this path in frustration, envy, and ambition. The difference between the lost and the few who rise is mental sovereignty, the ability to fuse fire and silence, desire and discipline, ambition and reason, into a force that reshapes reality. Observation, reflection, and deliberate execution are the instruments of transformation. Hill instructs reviewing and refining plans. The Stoics instruct constant self-examination and emotional governance. Together, they reveal that the mind can be trained to command reality. Visualization becomes pre-execution. Belief becomes unshakable certainty. Desire becomes controlled energy. Persistence becomes unstoppable momentum. The path is narrow, disciplined, and terrifying, but for those willing to walk it, wealth is not possibility, it is inevitability. Ask yourself now, how long will you continue to drift, lost in distraction, fear, and the illusion of effort? How many more opportunities will slip past while you pretend that hope is enough? The universe does not bend to indecision. Reality does not reward hesitation. Wealth, power, mastery, they respond only to the mind that commands itself fully, ruthlessly, and without compromise. The dark truth you have been avoiding is not outside of you. It is here within the fractured corridors of your thoughts, within the untamed fires of your desire, within the chaos of your unchecked emotion. Until you confront it, you will remain a spectator, watching others claim what you believe is your right. The fire you feel, the hunger, the longing, the ambition, must be disciplined. It must be shaped, directed, and fused with silence. Hill calls this definiteness of purpose. The Stoics call it virtue under reason. Together they form the ultimate law: desire harnessed, belief anchored, emotion mastered, action precise, and persistence relentless. Every fleeting thought, every indulgent emotion, every moment wasted on distraction is a betrayal of potential. Your mind, untamed, has been your greatest obstacle. Your fear, your impatience, your attachment to comfort, these are the shackles that have kept you poor, not circumstance, not luck, not opportunity. Imagine yourself now standing on the edge of everything you have ever wanted. The fire of desire roars within, yet your mind is still. You see clearly, you feel deeply, you know unshakably. Fear exists, but it no longer commands you. Doubt whispers, but you do not flinch. Every thought is examined, every emotion observed, every action calculated. You are not acting from desperation, you are executing inevitability. The universe bends to certainty, to clarity, to discipline. You have become the force it cannot resist. This is not ambition, this is mastery. Your subconscious is now your ally. Every repeated thought, every disciplined ritual, every controlled visualization has shaped it into an engine of manifestation. It no longer wavers between hope and fear, It obeys the dominant commands of your conscious mind. Hill teaches that whatever the mind can conceive and believe, it can achieve. The Stoics teach that reason and virtue direct action without distraction. Together they reveal the ultimate principle: internal mastery guarantees external results. Wealth is not a question of chance. It is the inevitable consequence of an ordered, disciplined, relentless mind. Persistence now is the final instrument, not blind repetition, not frantic motion, not hope masquerading as effort, but calculated, relentless, unwavering persis, tense, guided by reason, refined by observation, fueled by disciplined desire. Every obstacle, every setback, every betrayal or failure becomes fuel, not frustration. Every delay is a lesson, every criticism a mirror, every moment of discomfort an opportunity to refine and strengthen. You do not act for approval, for reward, or for recognition. You act because the mind that commands itself acts inevitably, naturally, and without hesitation. Look closely at fear. Its power over you is gone. Observe it, acknowledge it, dissolve it with reason and preparation. Every hesitation, every rationalization, every attachment to comfort has been removed. The chaos that once consumed your attention has been transmuted into clarity, focus, and precision. You no longer react. You execute. You no longer hope. You know. This is the secret the world does not tell you. Mastery of self precedes mastery of wealth. Every rich man, every powerful individual, every person who has shaped reality first conquered the invisible territories within. The mind, the subconscious, the emotions, the imagination now embody the paradox: hunger without desperation, fire without chaos, desire without attachment, ambition without agitation. The fire within drives action. The silence within guides it. Your visualization is vivid, detailed, alive, yet untouched by longing or fear. Your belief is absolute, anchored in reason and reinforced by ritual. Your emotions are sharp instruments, observed and directed, never tolerated as chaos. Your persistence is unyielding, patient, adaptive, inevitable. You are no longer a seeker, you are the architect. You are no longer reactive, you are the commander. Act with precision. Move deliberately. Observe relentlessly. Refine constantly. Energy once dissipated in fear and distraction is now concentrated, focused, unstoppable. Every thought is a tool, every emotion a lever, every action a calculated strike. Wealth, influence, mastery, these are no longer possibilities. They are inevitable outcomes of the mind that has willed them into existence with clarity, discipline, and relentless purpose. The universe itself becomes a servant, not an adversary. This is the ultimate law. Interna